Now we are live.
Thank you. So I'll call the meeting to order. And a roll call.
Chair Willis,
Present.
Vice Chair Pease,
Present.
Board Member Bauer,
Present.
Board Member Eggleston Sislowich absent, Board Member Hendrick. Present. Just need to say to microphone.
Present.
Board Member McKinnon,
See online.
he is Board Member McKinnon, if you could unmute yourself and say that you're present, please. Thank you.
Okay, present. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Board Member
Okay.
Weaver.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any oral communications this morning from the public? Seeing nothing. And nobody online?
No one online, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on. Any agenda changes or deletions? Nothing. So let's move on to city officials' report on the schedule of meetings and assignments.
Okay, I'm going to launch my presentation.
Amy's going to launch, but I also would like to request that if you're going to be remote, will you just let us know? Just heads up.
Are people seeing the presentation?
Well, I can't see the presentation.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, it's over there on that screen. So
Can you turn that screen?
let's see if I can-
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a smaller screen, but
Well, it turns out you guys are all smart not to be here because it's much easier to see.
good morning. Amy French, Chief Planning Official. I have placed on the screen the upcoming HRB meeting dates and the missing persons that are planned absences. So today Alyssa is absent and we don't have any absences shown for the meeting on April 28th. And oops, I have an error down here. This is supposed to, oops. This is April 28th. We do have a project coming forward, 525 University, which was found to be a California Register eligible property, the very tall building on University. So that is an exterior alterations project. And then I see that we have David missing for May 26th. That's when we have a tentative date for a project on California Avenue, which is also a California Register eligible property. Those are both subject to architectural review. And as noted earlier, we have some issues with June. The meeting of June 9th is the same dates as the California Immigration Foundation conference. Many of us had the opportunity to go to that and get our credits for attending professional development. So that's proposed as a don't meet on June 9th because now several of us are not able to attend. So that's something to be aware of. All right.
So
Yeah.
Amy, is that something we should vote on, whether we want to have a meeting on June 9th or not?
It's not a requirement that we meet twice a month. It's just, those are the two meeting dates that are set aside. So I don't think there's a requirement to vote to not meet. I think it's the prerogative of the chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to cancel the June 9th one.
Yeah.
It seems like the conference would be a good thing for us all
Yeah.
to try and attend.
I would encourage attendance.
Okay,
They have great sessions. I've attended those over the years.
great. So let's move on and
All right.
talk about our new work plan.
Okay, so just one more slide on upcoming
okay.
events.
Sorry.
This Preservation Month is coming up in May, and we know about this one event in San Jose. So I believe I forwarded that to all of the board members, and here it is here, just a reminder, the date, time, and the cost. It's an opportunity to mix with the broader Santa Clara County preservation, board members, staff, what have you. And they have a band playing, the Stargazers, which I'll have to say my dad was a founding member of the Stargazer, so it just so happens, but he's no longer in the band, but it's a fun group. I know them. Yeah. So I plan to attend. Then we have as noted, the Cpf Conference, June 7th through 10th, that registration is open for. It's an online conference, so it's easy to attend. And I may not attend this year because I'm planning to be in Paris those days. So we'll see. The time may work, may not. And then there are some actual tours on June 11th and 12th. So that's something of interest. Then let's see, then we have the annual CLG report. So I'm preparing that now for the April 28th HRB meeting. And we do that every year, file with the State Office of Historic Preservation. Okay, so now on to the new format. You've already looked at the work plan several times, beginning with our retreat in January. And now we have the new format. So
Actually, I want to back up a little bit. So Amy and I talked a little bit about Preservation Month and the Santa Clara County Preservation Group. Is that true? Is that what it's called?
Alliance, yes.
Alliance.
Yeah.
And I do think it would be great if all of us could attend just to network with the different groups. The one, we talked a little bit about whether we wanted to put forward anyone or anything for an award. And I think maybe the one thing that Amy suggested that I agree with is the past website, that they have filled in a huge gap in our preservation. I mean, in very many ways, they've filled in a lot of gaps in preservation in Palo Alto, but I think especially the website, they've gone above and beyond. Does anybody else think that's a good idea? No thoughts?
This would be to honor the past board.
Yes, it would be to honor past as an organization for, I think actually I would frame it as the past website, that I would give the past website an award for being an amazing community outreach effort. I don't know how we would phrase it, that would be another thing, but I think it would be a nice thing to acknowledge. There's a lot of work that's gone into that website.
Yeah, I would absolutely support that. This is Margaret. I think they do, and we rely on them so much for information and photos and resources. So I think any opportunity that we have to thank them and praise them, I think that would be really a great thing to do, a great gesture.
I agree. I think we really should acknowledge the past.
Okay, thank you. Do we need a vote? I don't think we need a vote. Do we need a vote?
no,
No.
I will let the organizer of this event know that that's who we would put, that's the organization we would put forward as a, for their efforts on the webpage.
Okay, great. And they've already done all the graphics for us. So if you guys have not, I can't imagine, but if anybody has not gone to the PEP's website and looked at the historic building inventory, you should do it. It's a really nice effort. Thanks. Okay, Amy, back to you.
Yeah, please do peruse the color photos of our inventory properties. Okay, and so now on to one of the main purposes today, which is to just note that I have transferred what we had previously reviewed with the board as our upcoming work plan on an older format with the new format. And there are some minor changes in that transfer because there are some additional categories, but we're still reporting out of our prior year accomplishments in the work period for this. We had 9 HRB meetings. We prepared a work plan and we continued with our policy 7.2 work, which was of course doing historic resource evaluations of the potentially eligible properties built before 1948 and commercial properties as well. And then historic reviews for exterior alterations. So I transferred all of this over to this new format. And then as far as the work plan for the upcoming year, we had, I think 5 goals on the old format. I reduced that down to 4 goals for this format. And so goal 1 is to is to continue our work, which is exterior alterations and take on that review bulletin that we discussed earlier that can use an update. Goal 2 is to, and I have a slide for each one of these, but just this is the overview of the 4 goals. So I'll go over those in more detail. And then the new format has 5 columns about each goal. So the beneficial impacts, timeline, resources needed, measure of success, and relationship to law or council approved policies. And then there are priority statements about the goals. So this is kind of the area that was new in the new format. So here's work plan goal 1 that had review of alterations. And this is our ongoing work of the board, the main work of the board to date. And so we'll continue with that. And also we assist the ARB with review of commercial resources. And I include in that eligible commercial resources because I think this is a role that HRB can help with. And this is the note about the review bulletin. I changed the dates to, because now the first quarter is starts in July and not April, as I previously had worked on. And so then we have our comprehensive plan policy implementation. Again, 7.2 is noted there. This is just for the public to understand. That is when owners request an evaluation and they do pay the city for these historic resource evaluations. Sometimes they're going to sell a property. Sometimes they want to come in and they're seeking to demolish a property or, discretionary review of a 2-story home, this kind of thing. And then here, because of the council's action on March 21st, I have the implementation launch. We had hoped that would take place and it did. We have an estimated duration of around 8 months for this project. So that is something we're getting to a point of estimating how long the project will take. And I have put up on the screen here the this task, I call it L7.1.1, which is implementation of that, nominating properties already found eligible and with DPR forms prepared to the city's inventory. So these are kind of the 3 areas. One is optional. The first is the residential properties that we would have a consultant take a look at, see if they still exist. We think about 11 of those have already been demolished. And do a survey report, consider which inventory category, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And we have a number of sessions, a study session to discuss the findings and approach. This would be with the HRB. And then we would have the 2 evening meetings with the HRB and then let's see, and then 2 other meetings with the HRB, and then 4 city council hearings to take this project on. That's where we are right now. It has not been finalized, but, and then we have this optional task of looking at the roughly 35 National Register eligible commercial buildings to confirm whether they should still be considered eligible. So that's an optional task. And then we have supportive staff, because I'm one person and this would be somewhat daunting for one person to take on with other job responsibilities to help on the outreach. So we have some staff report on that outreach, community meetings for this process. So again, this is kind of the rough scope at this point. And just moving on to finalize the work plan. We have plan goal 3, which is outreach, just generally about all of our incentives to being historic, and also ordinance review, which is one of the comprehensive plan policies. And that's pretty much put off until 2023, the latter half of the year. I don't know, we have to finish a number of things before we start on that project. And then finally, this has been on the work plan for a number of years, the Millsack Program. It's been teased out with an ad hoc committee, so that work could continue on and be completed. It's a lower priority goal, and we have other things on our plate, but the idea would to be finalize an approach and then prepare a report to council. And again, that would be, we'd get a report going in early 2023, and then maybe report out to council in March or April of next year. And that's, again, if we've finished our other goals, which are in a higher priority. I also included, this was this Millsack ad hoc committee work, changes to the work. This was published in the September 9th, 2021 HRB report packet. So, I'm just reminding everyone that this was in that packet to have a look at that, right? All of these in red. So if anyone wants to go back to that, let me know. But I will go back to generally this slide, and then we can have a discussion. If you want me to forward to any of the slides, let me know.
I think it might,
Carolyn, can I make a comment?
please.
I just wanted to point out that the last slide that Amy showed, the last two slides, which had red and black writing, the red is updated language for that. So you understand that that's been added since the subcommittee worked on this 4 years ago. So that's why it's some writing is in red and some is in black.
So yeah, so I'll just say this could be something we have the ad hoc committees reporting out. These first meetings of the month are the idea is that this will be the time that the ad hoc committees can present anything. So if you would like later after we're finished with the work plan, we can have a shout outs from the ad hoc committee.
I would like to do that, especially on the Mills Act. I have some thoughts, and I think we kind of need to keep moving forward, even if it's tiny little steps. David, let's come back to the Mills Act at the end of the meeting with our committee reports.
It's fun.
So Amy, I think it might be better to go through these with, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yep.
one at
Okay.
a time, especially because I can't read that.
I know, I can't either.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have it close to me. So here we have work plan goal 1 with this is the ongoing work of the HRB to review per what the ordinance says, these certain category buildings on our inventory. So I guess the new things to look at, because we've already looked at this goal, would be these new statements of impacts, timeline, resources needed, measure of success, and then the priority. So, I just on the priority, it's a high priority because it's the primary work as noted in the historic preservation ordinance is this work to review alterations.
Yeah, I
And-
don't really have any comments on that, but
Okay.
I will say that this is a new format. The council and the city manager's office are looking at it for how effective it is and how well it serves us. I actually think it works pretty well for the Historic Resources Board, but if anybody has comments, there will be an opportunity for me or any of us, I guess, to talk to council when they review it in May. So please feel free, if you feel like this doesn't quite, do what we need it to do. Because I think we will be, perhaps we'll be adjusting these a little bit board by board. So.
Yes, please. May 16th is the date for council consideration, and they've asked that we do represent. So I'm planning to attend that meeting, and you're welcome to anyone. The chair would be appropriate to come to that meeting if you're able. And please do, if you have some comments on this, I will be forwarding this to the city clerk once I have any kind of comments on this for typos and such.
My only comment on the format would be that I would like the project goal to be jump off the page rather than the green lines, which we already know what they say, those are format. So I don't know if the coloration is
No, that's
something
not,
that was
that's
in
the
the thing.
format that we received from the city clerk's office. So
Yeah.
it was difficult to put all the stuff in the, in
Definitely.
these areas.
Yeah, so my only thing would be, I think it would be if the actual goal itself was larger.
I have a question if I could, please.
Yes, go for it.
And I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, but I'd just like to know a little bit more about the bulletin, the function of the bulletin. I've looked at the 2016 version. I know it's a lower priority, but it needs to be revised. Amy, could you explain to me what the function of a bulletin is?
Sure. The review bulletin that was reviewed by the HRB in 2016 was to assist staff and the public to understand the different resources and how they're reviewed through the process when somebody wants to alter the exterior or demolish the resource. There is a bulletin that helps people understand that process. We had different categories of resources to help people understand that.
I think, yeah, I don't find the bulletin totally clear, but I think that our goal in the future would be to make clear to the public, especially as we add properties to the inventory, what's the difference between, what happens if you're a category 3 and 4? What happens if you're a category 1 or 2? What happens if you're commercial? What happens if you want to subdivide? I think that it needs to be a little more defined what comes to the HRB. But I think that's basically the goal of the bulletin, is to make it clear to us what we see, make it clear to staff when they receive a project, whether it should come to the HRB and what the process is.
Does this includes informing the general public, correct?
Yes, it's not on the web page now. We removed it because of the comprehensive plan adoption back in end of 2017 that changed things up a bit for historic resources. But so that's a tweak that needs to happen. One other tweak that we kind of discussed related to a project was what constitutes minor exterior alterations.
Correct.
And this can be better defined, and we can put that on the bulletin to help the public and staff understand what the board considers minor.
Right, because I noticed in it, there was an effort to simplify in the discussion. Some adjustments in the last 2 pages are actually sort of an attempt to simplify things, present them in boxes, kind of frequently asked questions and so forth. So would the bulletin be considered, in addition to guidance for staff and for us, et cetera,
Yes,
as public outreach? Would that be a fair category to?
sure.
Okay.
Yes, anytime we take on a project that helps clarify how we do business and what the code says, et cetera, and how the board operates, I would call that outreach.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn, I have a comment whenever.
Okay.
So as I look at this language, I find it somewhat confusing, and it's not a criticism, but just as an example, the project goal 1 is to review alterations, support, nominations, and update the bulletin. Bulletin is obviously confusing to all of us because based on the comments here, but I'm not sure that I understand what the review of alterations to historic properties is a goal. That's what the HRB has been doing since it was formed in 1998, if I'm understanding this language. And then the next part of my comment is that the resources needed are, as it says under here, all these consultants that cost money, and we don't have any money. So this seems to me to be a kind of an odd way of saying that the Historic Resources Board is going to do what it has been doing for 24 years. Is that the purpose of this, just to define it?
Well, council will be reviewing the work plan, and the goal, our primary goal, which is not on this, is to get the resources from council that we need to execute our work plan. And presumably, if council is not going to support us with resources, they will say this is an unrealistic work plan. I met with the mayor, all of the chairs and of the boards, various boards, met with the mayor this week, and that was a topic of discussion. Work plans are happening right now, and some boards have very ambitious goals, and I think that there was a lot of concern about, overreaching and what is realistic. And I think that the one thing that the council has done this year is I think they're going to have a separate meeting on work plans so that it's not something that's just going to be on the consent calendar and briefly discussed. It will be something where there is some back and forth and some adjustment and some conversation with council to make sure they really understand what we're taking on. So that's that one. The fact that reviewing projects is a goal, just because it's a continuing goal doesn't mean it's a goal. It is our primary task. So I think it's not a future goal, it's a current goal and an ongoing one. So I don't have a problem with that being there. But yeah, is there something I missed here? I think.
No, the only other comment I would make is the high priority, low priority language seems to me to be somewhat confusing as well. Because under high priority in goal 1, I'm just using this as an example, but I think all 4 of these focus points have the same issue. So goal 1 is a high priority, and then revisions to the bulletin are a medium priority. I just don't find this very informative to the public. I understand the importance of defining goals and providing towards a certain point, but talking about it is not the same as doing it. And I guess I find that this is somewhat frustrating because it's just more talk and still not very much action on the things that are listed here. So just my opinion about this.
We all feel that. Thank you. But I'm hopeful it'll change. Christian and I are meeting with the mayor and put some planning staff this evening and hoping to clarify that so that we know we have the support for what we're taking on. We know this is a huge change for the HRB, but we're optimistic that the city can manage this. So I hear you, but let's hope for a change. But David, I guess the one other thing about the confusion of the high priority, low priority, I kind of feel that too. And I think that's a formatting issue more than anything for me. So maybe you and I could see how that could be adjusted, dealt with in the format. Not that we would necessarily change it. Well, okay, we wouldn't change it this year, but something in the future, we could work with this work plan to refine it so that it's clearer for us. And then maybe we could talk that over with the city manager's office.
If I could, I'm hoping if we walk through these one at a time as we are, if we could try to have enough time left over to talk about the overlap between them. And because I think that's really important when it comes to asking for funding and focusing our work.
Okay.
I mean, I think there is, when I read this, I find a lot of overlap where if we're going to ask for money to invest in something, we may be able to leverage more of the results of that investment. If we just take a moment to look at all 4 of these together and to see where there might be overlap.
Okay, at the end. The other thing in putting the bulletin as a lower priority, a medium priority, I think we need to reassess that in terms of inventory update because outreach is going to be a huge thing for us. I think that if we could clarify the bulletin and have that available to the public when so that it would help them understand what the reality is of being on the inventory, which I don't think is very onerous. And I think the bulletin might help people understand that. So I think we might want to move that up as a priority for our outreach goals. So does anybody want to else want to talk about the, anything on goal 1?
I would offer to look at that column that says measure of success. That might be an area, Board Member Bauer, that you can provide what you think is the success of the goal. So I've identified that, as far as the bulletin goes, and the idea was to start this as the first quarter in July when this plan technically starts, that the bulletin would be updated and posted on the preservation program web pages. That is how I see success. If there's something else there that involves outreach and, a mailer in the, the city's utility bills, I don't know what else would be conceived of as a successful outreach regarding the bulletin. I mean, I imagine we will have a meeting with the HRB to look at the versions of the bulletin and tweak them as we did in 2016. And then, there could be additional outreach.
Yeah, from my perspective, that might go more under inventory update with the outreach. And so we could, but yeah, maybe that talks to Christian's overlapping idea.
Sure. And I think with these goals, I mean, I just did my best, but I think each goal could reference one of the other goals as related, cross-referencing.
Yeah.
That's a possibility too. Okay, shall I move on to the next
Yes,
goal?
please.
So we have goal 2, which is again, the policy implementation from our comp plan. So 7.2, again, which we're proceeding with ongoing. And then now the 7.1.1, which council on March 21st directed staff to work with the HRB to review the approximately 165 properties deemed eligible previously and make recommendations for listing on the city's local inventory in accordance with the process set forth in Palo Alto Municipal Code 1649 and collaborate with the HRB for community engagement. So that was the motion. That's what we're now beginning to execute as far as that goes. So that's an important one for this as far as resources. If you want to look under that column and measure of success, I would appreciate input on those, a couple of those.
So my comment on this one is that I find it somewhat confusing combining the ongoing process of studying properties that are potentially historic and analyzing, actually putting the properties on the inventory. That I think they're pretty separate. I think it would be clearer if we had them as separate goals. I know they both are responsive to the same policy, but I think they're different activities and we handle them differently. So I think trying to group them together is not going to, okay, it's confusing me.
Okay, so we can separate these into goal 2 and a new goal 3. One is the 7.2 and the second would, goal 3 would be the L711, which is the council action.
Okay, I would reverse. So I would have council action, this number 2,
Okay.
and then our ongoing is number 3.
Okay.
Just because I kind of feel like the ongoing, I doubt anybody's going to come in with that, but
yeah,
that's not going to be a huge part of what we're doing.
Well, it continues. It's daily work in the department that we do. So
Okay.
again, it's like the ongoing of the prior goal. So
I have a question. Where do we stand on getting the consultant?
we are working through the scope. And as I presented in one of those slides today, we can get back to that, but refining the scope and getting towards, a hire of a consultant to help us with the staff, the council direction.
And what is the timeline?
We were estimating about eight months for the project.
But how soon would we get the consultant on board?
Well, this is always a question until it happens. We have, a process with purchasing and such. So we work diligently to make it happen.
I do want to talk about this, and I think let's talk about it in subcommittee reports because I think it is an issue. It's something we're interested in and something we should start to define. It's going to be a process. So let's let's work on our plan so we can move on.
Can I make a suggestion? Under beneficial impact, as implementation allows city to learn about historic status prior to proposed demolitions. I think we should have renovations / demolitions, because we don't just do it for demolitions, we do it for other alterations, don't we? Wouldn't that be a broader sort of net to cast with that statement?
Yes, it's just a policy 7.2. The statement in that policy is to, before we allow demolition, we find out whether it's California Register eligible, basically. So
Okay.
that's a translation of the policy wording. But for this work plan, we can certainly add, also for, significant exterior changes. Because we do,
Right.
that's the activity. If somebody comes through with an individual review to add a second floor, we would, evaluate what are the character defining features that they need to preserve in this remodel and addition. And so that is what we do.
I would actually vote for something along the lines of major changes, because I don't like actually having demolition in here at all. And it seems like demolition's a major change. Is there some way to phrase it that we could group those
Sure.
things together and have it more?
Sure, this is a work plan that we don't have to quote the policy in the comp plan.
And I wanted to ask about resources needed. In this case, are property owners going to have to fund any of the consultant activities in confirming the ongoing potential for these properties to be added to the local inventory?
So I'll answer this, Vice Chair Pease, by saying that 7.2 is funded by property owners.
Okay.
Often they come through with, they want to sell their property and they want to find out, is it actually historic or is it not? And so that's a lot of what we do on a daily, weekly basis, is to help property owners who are about to sell their property understand if they have a California Register eligible property or not. And so that is funded by property owners.
Okay, so there's no linkage between that and the 165 approximate properties that were.
Correct.
I think, Christian, that was one of my, it's my primary reason for wanting to separate the two out. So it should, when we revise it into goals 2 and 3, it should be clearer. Is that true, Amy?
Yeah, so then on the other policy that's showing up as in the same goal right now, but will be separated, 7.1.1 is the area where, those properties that we already have DPR forms for, both the National Register and the California Register, that we already found out, yes, they're eligible. Those are the ones where, we are going to take them in batches and as nominations. And that will be this big process we're about to get into.
That's very helpful. But I also think this goal 2 is very interesting because we've had plenty of discussions about aspirations, particularly about public outreach and education and awareness. But it's always been a resource problem, but both with staff and with budget. But this particular goal was vetted, as I understand it, in the city council meeting, was voted unanimously by all present. And it's probably the most likely one to have merit in terms of getting funding. So I think it's really important that we work on what that means here, what the costs are with this particular goal. And my suggestion is, going through all these goals, now 4, I think a lot of the work on outreach here in terms of the content can be applied to those other tasks. And it would be wise, given money is scarce, that we try to approach them in ways that we can reuse the outcome of that process, whether it's the bulletin or any other public outreach that's associated with the other 3 goals. Don't all say something at once.
Okay. Well, when you first brought it up, I was wondering if we wanted to move the goal of updating the inventory up to number 1. And then, our ongoing one lower. But now I'm wondering if we want to move the update up and have revise the bulletin as part of that section, so that it becomes clearer that that's part of our public outreach and part of our inventory update. So, but now I'm really mucking around with the system here. So let me throw out my proposal and see who agrees with me. So if we went to goal number 1, update the inventory, policy 7.1.1, and in conjunction with that, update the bulletin. And then policy number 2 would be our ongoing. Policy number 3 would be 7.2, learning the historic status, which is not so much us as staff is my feeling. Is that true?
Yes, that's been a staff plus consultant effort. And then, of course, presented yearly to the HRB is the list of all those properties found eligible and ineligible. That's in the CLG report that I bring to the HRB every year.
Okay.
So you
It can stay.
Yeah.
And then the remainder. So we would sort of reshuffle, revise 1, 2, and 3. Any feelings on that one? Christian?
I'll throw out there, I'm also happy to meet with the chair and vice chair to, finalize this, finesse this, but it would have to be soon because this is getting into a council report.
Yeah, it's time is short. Well, I think another way to look at it is we don't always have properties submitted for our consideration. In fact, that's why over the last period that I've been on the board, we've had more meetings that have been canceled than have actually been held. So I think it remains a primary responsibility, but there should be, if we continue meet at least once a month, but if not more, we could address this other space, these other 3.5 goals, if you will. So I just think that's another way to look at it.
From my perspective, is that despite the fact we have 4 goals, moving any of them forward at any particular time is a success for the board. So ordering them, I think, is less important than just trying to move them forward. So if the order makes a difference to the council, then let's talk about this. But I think just getting them before the council, these goals, is probably the highest priority for us.
Yeah, I'm really talking about order. In this case, I'm just thinking about the likelihood of actually having resources to work with.
I understand and appreciate exactly what you're saying, Kristen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think if anybody has additional thoughts, email either Christian or I, and we will sit down with Amy probably early next week. Does that work?
Yes. Again, I would ask everyone to focus on that column measure of success. And if you all can agree that those measures of success seem, that wording seems good, that would be helpful. I think maybe today, if we can have people weigh on it, if they don't think that is the measure of success, that would be helpful to me. So for policy 7.1, city gradually finds properties previously unevaluated to be either ineligible or eligible for California register. That's what we're doing with policy 7.2. There might be another measure of success, related to that, but that's the primary, function of that. 7.1.1 is the city makes strides towards listing properties on its local inventory and more owners have access to existing incentives for historic resources.
I think that works great as long as we separate out those two things.
Yep.
But anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree. I think separating this project goal into 2 goals, because I think the thing that's sort of I don't want to say a red flag, but up in the project goal 2, where it says, let's work with the HRB to review the approximately 165 properties deemed eligible previously and make recommendations for listing on the city's local inventory in accordance with the process set forward. I feel like that task is beyond our, skill level, not skill level, but beyond our, I guess, timeframe or ability. And that definitely requires an outside consultant. And I know we've already talked about Amy saying that that's in the works, but I feel like that task alone is, to me, an unachievable goal at the moment. And possibly in the near future. I don't know if anyone has that same opinion.
Wait, Margaret, I want to clarify. So are you saying updating the inventory is an unachievable goal in your mind?
No, I think
Okay,
it's achievable.
sorry.
I just feel like reviewing the approximately 165 properties, like in what time frame would that take place? I know that we have our safety net where when people want to alter their properties, they're required to do a review. And that's a very positive and important safety net for us. And I do agree with taking out the word demolition because we don't want to make any suggestions towards that. I do agree that word needs to change to alteration. But I guess I'll take a step back and just say I know that this is a long-term goal, and when 165 properties, it's not something that we can tackle in a short amount of time to review the 165 properties and deem them eligible or not eligible is what.
We will
Okay.
have support for that.
And
Yes.
I will make sure of it.
And-
I will throw my body in front of City Hall.
Because that alone seems like a daunting task right there.
It does, but I don't think it will in a couple of months. I think in a couple of months, we will find our way through, but I really want to talk about it in the subcommittee reports. So
Okay.
And
for
just,
now,
I want to correct Margaret because what she said is not quite accurate.
Okay.
She said to find out if the 165 properties are eligible or ineligible, that work was done in the year 2000. Those properties, 165, were deemed eligible and sent to the state. So those are already on file with the state as eligible properties, not, we don't know, right? So that's just to be clear, that's what we're doing. The DPRs are already
okay.
prepared for those.
Got it. But it
Almost
talks
there.
about reviewing them. So even is a big task.
I don't, having looked at most of them, I don't think it's going to be that bad.
And the idea is that it is about 8 months time to do this. That's what we're kind of estimating.
I actually think this is, in terms of real results, is the most promising goal we have in front of us. And the stars are aligning to give us what we need to do that. And it's also a huge opportunity to work with staff to, in a more comprehensive way, to help shape what the outreach is. Outreach is everything to our goals, I think, overall. So I think this particular goal here is actually the most doable I've seen since I've been on the board, other than passing judgment on one project to the next.
Can I ask a question about what the next step would be for those 165 properties if they've already been deemed eligible for listing?
Can
What would the HRB have to do to get them listed? Would just have a
David.
meeting and say,
Sorry to interrupt, but
Sure.
again, I'd like to move this to when we talk about committee reports, and let's talk about that inventory. Let's talk about it within this context of updating the inventory. So right now, let's just try and talk about adjustments to our work plan. And then later in the meeting, we'll talk about specifics to updating the inventory. Does that work?
sure.
Okay, sorry. So now we have a new 3. So 3 is going to be 4, but let's call it 3. So improve outreach once again. I'm wondering if we want to move this in with our inventory update section, L.1.1. Does anybody else have thoughts on outreach and ordinance review? I guess the ordinance review needs to be separate, but it seems like the outreach is definitely going to have to be part of our inventory update. So once again, do we want to separate outreach from ordinance review?
that's fine to do, to make more goals and have each one be distinct from another. Maybe that's, I mean, I think the board is struggling because I condensed these into 4 goals just because there was so much paperwork, but I'm happy to
Well,
separate, tease
I'm-
these all.
I'm
each
just wondering if we can
individually.
combine outreach in our goal with L.1.1. Does that make sense?
I can do that.
Anybody else?
I think that makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna direct Amy to go that direction.
As far as reviewing the ordinance, again, this was envisioned as the second half of the year, which would be, next year.
Yeah,
If we've accomplished, the 8 months worth of L11 activity and other activities such as the bulletin update.
okay. Also, another reason to separate it, because then we maybe could accomplish one of our goals.
Always the hope.
Yeah, ever optimistic. So we're gonna make this well, no, we're gonna,
I think this is goal 5, the ordinance goal, and the outreach you're suggesting we put that in with goal 1, which is now the L11.
no, I think it would still be 4.
Okay.
So outreach would be, no, sorry, ordinance update would be 4.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm adding that many. And then outreach would combine with number 2, right?
Yeah, and then 2 is separated into 2 and 3. So we may have, him.
I mean,
Next
I
one-
knew number 2.
Yeah.
So I knew number 2 is updating the inventory. I'm abbreviating. And then number 3 is the the 7.2.
Right.
Our current ongoing review that's mostly staff rather than the HRB. And then goal
3 is now goal 4.
and goal 3, which is ordinance update,
Right.
is going to be 4.
I think
And-
we're calling that ordinance review, not ordinance update right now. Just,
Well, I want to call it update. Well, okay, I'll
Okay.
go, okay, review. Tried to do this a quarter of a century ago. Okay,
and now goal 4 is goal 5, which is the Millsack Program
okay,
report.
okay, magic number 5. So anybody have comments on the statement of the project and goal for the Mills Act? Okay, so hearing nothing, we will see if I can unbury my agenda. So any other, okay, so let's work backwards. So Christian, Amy, can you put the slide that was all of the goals? I guess now they're different. So your comment about the parts of the goals that need to be consolidated and addressed together. Have we done that by restructuring this work plan? Christian?
I think we're opening up the possibility to do that going forward, yes.
Okay, so do we need to have further conversation about the entirety of our goals? Or are we good with our goals for now? Okay, I don't hear any loud objecting.
Are we going to get a revised form soon of the goals so we can comment before it has to go to council?
When's it going to council?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough turnaround. I mean, I feel like we've sat with these goals and now we're just sitting with this new format. So I feel that, this should be the last meeting where we're talking about this. I'm happy to provide the modified version, but whether we'll have a board, that would be the end of April. And I believe the staff report will be going out right around that time to the council. So, they have early reports.
So next week, when we could send out kind of a mock-up of what so at least
Sure.
most of it would be
Yeah.
intact and the board could see, and if there were any strong objections, there would be an opportunity to have a little input, but you have to get your comments back pretty quickly.
And we could certainly, when we present this to the council, May 16th is the date, we can, convey, the board's concerns with, the format, if there's a concern with the format, and how to, maybe next year, the format could be improved. This is the first year of this format. And I only received this in March.
Yeah,
Then,
recently. So my only comment, when you do submit it, can you make the goals more prominent? You can just
I'll give
bold
it
or
my all. It's a
a
really,
larger typeface?
yeah, it's a really rough, it's really hard because there's like a finite amount of space
Yeah,
that won't let me expand it. So we'll see. Maybe I can
Okay.
work with the city clerk on that.
okay.
Can I ask a procedural question? This is actually on our agenda as a consent calendar item, and typically consent calendar items aren't discussed and they're not modified, at least on the council level. I'm wondering if we're making all these changes, whether this now needs to be run by, it's a public a visibility issue that I'm somewhat concerned or interested in here. The council, they'll pull something off the consent calendar if they discuss it. Otherwise, they just basically say yes or no. Isn't that right, Amy? I mean,
That's correct. So this was not advertised as a public hearing item. It was just placed on consent. So technically, and I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I wasn't focused on that. So probably would have been a good idea to ask the members if they wanted to pull it off consent and discuss it. I believe because we have discussed everything that's in here as far as the goals themselves, that in multiple meetings, that it's not a new topic that, but if we had public here, we could ask them if anyone is watching out in the public, but they're not, they could take part and provide feedback to us. And certainly, this will go to council in a public meeting and they can speak to it at that time as well.
yeah, I think the changes we've discussed are all valid and we ought to make them. I'm just a little bit concerned about getting caught in some, weird procedural thing. So if you're comfortable with it, I'm fine. I just am raising the question.
Yeah. Again, this was supposed to be just basically a format discussion or, format presentation on my part. And then if there were problems with the format or how, I think it did what we needed to do to say, let's use more boxes and separate some of the goals into more boxes. So that's basically what we're doing with this.
Fine.
Yeah, we haven't changed content or anything particular,
Yeah.
rearranging.
Thanks for bringing that up, David. I think
Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge that we follow the Brown Act and we post items on agendas and we do what we need to do to be transparent to the public. So I think they do have the opportunity, again, to comment on this.
So any further comments before we leave this topic? Thank you. And thanks for your input, guys. I think we're on a good path. So let's move on and approve the minutes from March 10th. Does anybody have any motions, comments, corrections?
If there are no corrections, I would move to approve.
Yeah,
A second.
thank you. And any discussion? I actually have one little thing on the first page, bottom of the first page. It was important for Mrs. French. So just under Chair Willis. Oh, I have two things actually. Okay, so get rid of that two, important for Mrs. French. Is this you? Can you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not
Okay.
reviewing the minutes themselves.
Oh, sorry.
Let me
So
pull those
on
up
the minutes,
screen.
is somebody available to make corrections?
I think,
Yeah, I can pull it up right now.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to share your screen, Medina?
Yeah, I can do that.
And
Okay.
my other one was more a question. So just before approval of minutes on page 17, there's a board member piece advocated, and then it says, based on what board member Eagleston Chelowich had created. So I think that was what Margaret had created.
Yes. Is this the outreach document? we're talking about that Margaret had noted, board member? Wimmer had-
Original document published in September. I think it was on the Mills Act.
Mhm.
But that's why I need you guys.
I will correct
Help,
that and
help.
share my screen.
Okay, Medina is going to share her screen
With
showing the minutes,
Mhm.
so we
So that we
can,
could make life changes.
Thank you.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Okay, well, the first one was easy.
Okay, so we should see everything now, and then I can make it like changes right now.
Okay, so scroll down to the very last paragraph.
Okay,
Thank you. And the first line where it starts, Chair Willis, felt it was important for Ms. French. So there's only just an extra two. It says important to for Ms. French. And you know,
oh,
I
Yeah,
just
two
want to get
for.
rid of it.
okay, got it.
Okay, so then let's go to page 5 of the minutes. And the second to last paragraph where board member Pease advocated.
Yeah, just.
Okay. So where are we? Not there yet. Down further?
Right here.
Okay, right there. So highlight the member Eagleston's says which. Okay, I'm pretty sure she didn't create a document. So who did?
I did, and Margaret and I did, and Margaret reviewed it. And so what I'm saying there, I'm asking Amy to incorporate the most recent page, 2 pages I sent her into the original document. I don't know what that means based on what board member had created, because
Okay, so let's just get rid of all of that based on what board member had created.
I think that's.
Okay, and Amy did incorporate those, right? That's what we saw in red?
Yes. she's-
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Phew, now I feel, is there any further discussion? I'm gonna call a vote. So all in favor of approving the minutes as updated? Aye. We do voice vote, or we need
Yes,
to do?
yeah.
Okay, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
I need to abstain since I was not at the meeting.
Okay,
Let me quickly, but I would like to maybe call everyone and then motion carries this.
sure.
Yeah. Let me quickly call everyone. and
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Let's do that.
okay.
Board Member Bauer,
Aye.
Board Member Eagleston Sislowich absent, Board Member Hendrick abstain, Board Member McKinnon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pease,
Aye.
Chair Willis,
Yes,
Board Member Weimer.
yes.
Motion carries 501 with Board Member Hendrick abstaining.
great, thank you. So now let's get to those subcommittee items that we all want to talk about in the work plan. So David, I know you had some thoughts. Do you want to start us off? Should we go committee by committee maybe? So let's go reverse order. Let's start Mills Act. Do we have anything on the Mills Act that we want to discuss today?
I think we need to get the materials that I sent to Amy into that same document that was originally created in 2018. And we ought to have everybody look at it on the board, and we ought to talk about additions or deletions and then move it forward. Creating a pilot program, I think that's a discussion we should have as a board, not as a subcommittee.
Wait, say it again, creating a what program?
A pilot program
Ah,
to implement a Mills Act issue is something that is putting the cart before the horse. We actually have to have a Mills Act. And then we can decide as a board what to recommend to the council. And I suspect it would be a single project. But that's a board decision, so it's not a subcommittee decision.
okay, I've been walking around town. And one of the things I've noticed that there are a couple of our category twos that have some obvious facade damage. And I was wondering if we could actually go to council and say, we would like to propose a Mills Act specifically for public buildings. I'm going to go for commercial buildings because they're more visible. If we could have a Mills Act for commercial buildings that directly impact the visual, sense of our town. So, where the Cardinal Hotel, the tiles desperately need some repair work on the upper cartouches and things. I think that would be a really good way to approach the Mills Act and really make it clear to council why it's a good thing for the community.
Well, that it would be a great thing for the community, but the Mills Act is a state-defined program. And I don't think we want to go to the council and just ask for a commercial program. You set in motion a program that deals with all historic buildings, and that's the state mandate, I think. And then the council could say, well, we'd like to support commercial buildings, or we want to support this building. But I think you have to have the overall definition of what the Mills Act program in Palo Alto will be, and then the council can decide how they want to apply it. They're the ones who will do that. But I don't think we want to, and I'm not even sure it is, I'm not sure that the state law, well, I guess, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. It's possible we could just have a commercial version, but I think we want to have a single version for all rather than specific version for each type of building. So
I will caution right now, we do not put Mills Act discussion on the agenda today. So
Okay.
really the
It's a
idea
committee
right
report.
now
We're having
is
a
just,
committee report.
yes,
Yeah.
report on activity that,
But we can ask questions, right? We just can't make decisions.
yeah, I think noodling things is not okay right now. Just
Okay.
report out
Okay.
the committee's.
So we will
efforts.
throw out ideas. We can do that, right? Questions. We can throw
It's-
questions
It's
at
a
our
slippery
committee.
slope to throw out ideas because then they want to be discussed. So I think
Okay.
we need to be narrower than that.
Okay.
So let me back up and say that the subcommittee has not, Margaret and I have not had any further conversations because I think we feel that this is as much as we can do in the subcommittee, and that the board needs to pick it up from here.
Okay, so we could agendize a minor discussion because I think this is going to be a really long-term thing to get in place under circumstances. So not maybe our next meeting, but when we, maybe our first meeting in May, we could have a discussion of the Mills Act and how we, what the legalities are, what the realities are, and how we might approach it so it's palatable to the council and the community. Does that make sense?
It's not a discussion we can have here.
Okay.
Just mention, wasn't there something in a mail in regard to this meeting, had something to do with the Mills Act? Was that someone from the public that I was just trying to look up that email, and I'm kind of handicapped because I'm not in my office, but is that something that we should acknowledge, that someone had approached us with something regarding the Mills Act, or
Yeah. It
am
was
I
a
imagining
reporter.
that?
It was a reporter that requested it.
Yeah, in an email regarding this meeting.
I
And I was trying to look it
don't
up on my
recall
phone, but
seeing that.
I
So
didn't see it.
Margaret, how is it? How did you receive that email? Do you remember that?
I just have to look through my phone. Maybe I'll send a follow-up email to Amy.
Yes, it was part of the attachment for the agenda for today.
Yeah.
Oh, perhaps it was in the packet. Yes.
Yes.
I have to pull up the packet online.
Yeah, I'll try to look it up on my phone right now. But I'm
It's not in the printed packet.
It's not in the printed packet.
Oh,
So-
Okay.
No, I
And
think it was just an email attachment. It was something in a part of an email.
Okay, well, that got lost. So maybe Medina could send it to us again, just as a separate thing, so we could I have no idea what we're talking about, so I haven't seen it. So that would be a good thing on our May meeting when we're talking about the Mills Act, to at least be aware of that email.
Can I, this is Amy French, just to say, I don't know that May, the first meeting of May is possible for me. I'm dealing with staff vacancies right now.
Oh,
And I'm preparing reports for the projects that are coming to you, actual projects that need review. So that's time consuming. And I would prefer to push the Mills Act discussion to, we've already said it's a medium priority or later priority to do so. So perhaps July would be more comfortable for me if we can push it off to July, since I do have some major work to do on some projects. Is that possible?
yes.
Oh, okay. Medina found the email and she can share her screen, this email that Margaret brought up. Go ahead.
So having read it, thank you. Will you just forward that to me? Oh, okay. I just wanted it in my, so I don't think we are going to
Oh,
respond.
This is a member of the press.
Yeah. So this sounds like somebody I should give a call to and say, we are in discussions. Is there? But, we are not, we have no imminent plans. Okay. But thank you for sharing that. And I do think we should get back. Yeah, this also brings
Thanks,
up my
Medina.
email question. So Medina, when something like this comes, does it just get forwarded to us? I mean, I feel like with the inventory update, it's going to be really important for us to be responsive to community comments and questions. So if somebody in the community sends an email to the HRB, I would like to be able to respond within a day or two.
Okay, yeah.
So having it attached to the agenda obviously didn't work for me. Totally missed it. But I think they should automatically get forwarded to me, even if they're garbage or, whatever.
Sounds good. I will set all the automatic forwarding to your
Yeah,
email.
and as
Yeah.
quickly as you can, because
Yep.
I do think there's going to be, it's going to be important for us to stay on top of community reactions and feelings and be responsive. So I'd like to do that, but thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, and that was in the same thing? Oh. So Medina, there were 3 emails attached. Will you send all of them to me?
Yeah,
Because
will do. I will
One
re-forward
was
them.
about, the properties that have, are potential, or determined to be National Register eligible. So yeah, if I have them all, I think I can respond. Thank you. Go. So let's talk about inventory update. So I will give you a little committee report. And then you guys can give me some feedback. So where is my stuff? I have tried to draft a letter to, okay, back up. I think the 2 things that we're looking for first, and I don't think we can look to our consultants, at least our historic consultants, for a lot of help on this, because I think it really relates to Palo Alto as a community. So I think we need, as a board and a committee, Alyssa and I are going to meet when she's back. But we need to talk about how we're going to approach it and how we can make this process as smooth as possible. I was kind of hoping, I made you all copies. I knew it's a possibility I wouldn't see you, but I was hoping. So I drafted a letter. Oh, look, go, you can have one. And Amy, I should have given you one earlier. I drafted a letter, and I also started a really casual list of, wait, don't leave here, of questions and answers, which I think is going to be a really important part of our outreach. So I would like to assume going in that most of the people who have properties that were deemed to be National Register eligible are not aware of it. There was no notice that I'm aware of. And they will be delighted that somebody has done all this research on their houses. They're very special houses. And they are going to be receptive to being on our inventory, which in my opinion has relatively low demands. You know, it is almost all positive. Yes, there is some thought that you have to go to the HRB, but I think we're nice and people should want to talk to us unless, you know, they are just cranky. So I would like to start working on a letter, and I'm really open. I will email this out to you guys. I'm really apologize. I just started working on it yesterday, but you know, I want to be positive about the inventory. I want to attach copies of the research that was done on their properties and ask them to, you know, if they know of anything, you know, that is otherwise. And I would like to, you know, make it a really positive thing that they're doing this, you know, as part of our community. We value their properties, and, you know, we are not there to punish anybody. And that I you know, hopefully most people will be responsive and say, yeah, sign me up. And how that process works, I would like to figure out a way where it can avoid, you know, going to 18 public meetings. I mean, some people will want to, and I'm fine with having the public meetings, but I would like to get rid of, I would like to have half of these properties signed up on our inventory with as little fuss and muss as possible. And I don't know how to do that, but I'm looking to you guys. I think we can figure it out. And then the other thing I was working on with questions and answers regarding the properties on the historic inventory. I think, you know, this came up the other night with Vice Mayor Koo. She was saying, you know, people were saying, you know, that they went to the public meetings. They said, anybody can point at my house and say it's historic, you know what? So I think it's important that people understand who decided that the house was just as historic. I think that we definitely need to address the fact that although you can't subdivide under SB 9, you can subdivide under our existing ordinance. We did that for you first. You know, we didn't wait for SB 9. And can you modernize? Yeah, the Historic Resources Board isn't reviewing the inside of your house from a historical perspective. Can you tear it down? Yeah, sorry, you actually can. Not in my, it doesn't make me happy, but is the city going to tell me what color I can paint my house? We've had those conversations. So I'm going to send out my list of questions, and I think, you know, you guys will have others that you've heard people in the community, I want to say answer wrongly, because, you know, mostly they're not bothering to ask the questions. They're mostly assuming. And I guess the one that's really not asked very often is why does the city want to preserve these old houses? And I think that's a really important one to answer.
Carolyn, can I interrupt for a second?
Please, I'm kind of done. Yeah.
I think Amy has to send this out. If you send it out, that would violate the Brown Act. It
Oh,
can't
God, no.
come from you.
Wait. I am not sending anything anywhere anytime soon. Sorry.
No,
This is going to take us a while to get to where we want to be. And when it goes out, it will come from the HRB, and we will vote on it, and it will be part of our outreach. And maybe city staff signs off on it too. But I think this is us saying we are here to support you. I mean, the Historic Resources Board is not a thorn in the city side. The Historic Resources Board is like, I like to think of it as the Village Green Preservation Society, that, you know, we want to preserve our community and we want to keep the parts that are important intact. So I'm not planning to send it out as anytime soon. But I do think it's something we need to start refining. And I would like, yeah, Amy, just a sec. I would also like those questions and answers to be on our website.
Okay,
I understood Board Member Bauer to say that you should not send an email out to the board, if that's correct, David, because
Yeah,
we don't do that. What we do
never
is
mind.
send, typically I would send something out and I would do it BCC so that there's not a conversation happening with the board.
Yeah, that was my only comment, Carolyn. It's not that I
Sorry.
don't support the idea. It's that if you send an email to all board members, that violates the Brown Act. But if Amy does it,
Okay,
we can't have more than 3 people on the board talking about any item that's not in this venue, in this public venue. That's all.
so I can't
Correct.
blind copy. That doesn't work either. I am just not, I can't be a source. But if I just send an email and blind copied it, why would that be?
I think you can blind copy it, but definitely copy me as part of that. You can copy me, not blind copy.
Right.
just,
I can
you
send it
know,
to you
it-
and blind copy the board, or do I need to?
It's just safer, Carolyn, not to send things to board members directly. Let Amy do it. Send it to Amy. And then there's no question that it's.
Okay.
You
I can
just
handle
don't. You just don't want to be, as they say in all these ethics program seminars, you just don't want to be on the front page of the Palo Alto Weekly because we didn't follow a process. That's all. I'm just suggesting process, nothing about content here, which I agree.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I appreciate it.
I thought you were saying don't send it out to the world. So I should have known what you were saying. I apologize. Okay. I had one more. No, I think I'm doing pretty good. So does anybody have any questions for me on this inventory update? Okay, well, that's my committee report since my partner's out of town. And hopefully we'll get back to you soon. Wrapping up here. So do we have any final board? Oh, Mike, do you have something? Not yet? So do we have any board member questions, comments, or announcements? Nothing happening? Amy kind of made all our announcements, huh? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And a second?
I second it.
And all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today.